Hey, I'm Jason Wilkins, and I'm here with the amazing Madi Diaz, who is a frequent flyer in our program. I'm sorry we don't have like a sub card that's like, now this is, I think, your third interview with
It
WNXP,
is, yeah.
but we need to have that. Give it a t-shirt or
I
something.
like it. Yeah. I like maybe I can get like a plaque somewhere, just
Yes.
like most visited something. Yeah.
But you've released 3 records since 2021. Well, are releasing a
Yep.
new one coming up.
Yes.
Very excited about that. But I want to talk about something first that happened early this year. That was 2 Grammy nominations. Your first, yes, in your
Yes.
career.
Yes.
All right, first we need the scene. Like when you found out that you were nominated for the Grammys, where were you? What was your
Mm.
reaction?
I had actually just started my last tour of the year. I think we were in Dallas. It was like day one of tour. I was having like crazy back problems and I just had an epidural. I was like literally limping across the finish line. It was a rough moment. And I was sitting at a counter with one of my really close friends, Adam Popick, and our TM Patrick, who we love. And I got a phone call from Casey Musgraves, and I picked up, and she was just like, "We're doing it. Hell yeah. It's happening." And I was like, "What are you talking? Like, where are we?" Actually, she sent me like 10 texts at first, and it was just like, F yes, holy, S, all of the things that you can't say on the radio, and just like in succession as fast as possible. And I just called her and I was like, "Are you okay? Is everything okay?" And she was like, "We're nominated for a Grammy." B word. I'm doing my best here. But it was a
Very
really
cognizant.
exciting.
Yeah.
And then I was just like yelling outside on like a street in Dallas and just like very much like, screw it because I'm never going to see any of these people again. But it was really exciting. And then my manager called me and I clicked over and he was like, "Is it one? No, it's two." And it was just screaming and chaos and fun. It was wonderful. It was a really fun, special moment. And I totally forgot about back pain for like, I don't know, almost like a whole 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Therapeutic.
Therapeutic.
Um,
Yeah.
what did it mean for you? Like that moment?
I think like it's just like it was a really profound bucket list moment. Just like just strange. It was really strange and like a really sweet tip of the hat from a lot of people that I really like look up to, and just really like the ultimate like industry Hunger Games chosen moment, which actually I think maybe you don't want to get chosen for the Hunger Games, I think is my takeaway from that movie. So yeah, the opposite of that, but similar feeling.
People die. I don't think people die in this situation.
This is different.
But
You're like, "Please don't choose me," and I'm like, "Please choose." Yeah.
metaphor taken.
Yes.
Yes.
Something like that.
Yes. Well, you come out of that situation, but and I don't know in the timeline, the making of this record. Were you making this album before that time period, or was it after?
We actually had just started moving down the road of making headway on this record before we got the Grammy nom, which I was actually very super grateful for, that we had already kind of like established like the blueprint and what we wanted to do in this next record, because I think otherwise I probably would have just been swimming in the like, where do we go from here? How do we make sure that people always pay attention to us, et cetera, et cetera. It was nice to like have kind of a little bit of the something established.
Yeah. Well, you said about the making of it, you had retreated to an island. This is before the actual like making of it. Can you talk a little bit more about that? I mean, you don't have to name the island necessarily. If you want to, you can. You're getting endorsed by the island, maybe. I don't know.
God, I wish.
But for that isolation, what I kind of hear it in the songs and in the presentation of the songs. What did that experience bring to this project?
Well, it certainly wasn't like a exotic tropical island sort of island. It was kind of more of like the metaphorical island of the soul kind of feeling. And I did just happen to be on an island in the Northeast when I was writing the majority of the record. So yeah, it was funny, in completing writing the record and then starting to try to like capture and record this last one. it felt like every time I invited like more than one other person into the room, it all just kind of like got out of hand or just sounded too lighthearted, or too just kind of crowded, in this like really interesting way, which kind of just like really forced me to keep my head down and, continue to kind of go inward and like do the mining, the singular sad mining. Yeah.
Well, you found some amazing stuff in your island mining expedition, but you didn't call your record Island Mining Expedition. You could have asked, and I would have told you. You called it Fatal Optimist, and I read a couple of descriptions you put out there, but I'd love to give you a chance to sort of describe the T-shirt that you announced this album with, and what that phrase means to you, and also sort of why you chose that as the thing you wanted to put out there as the title of this whole time period and project.
I think I'm definitely a person that kind of tends to lead with optimism. I think we all kind of are to some extent. Like getting out of bed is fairly optimistic, especially like, in like 2025, optimism can maybe even like be sort of punk rock if you think about it. It's just like kind of a hardcore way of going about things. And I think, this collection of songs is definitely like sort of like what happens when it happens, when you kind of like follow that optimism and, like the heartbreak that you can experience, when you kind of follow the thread of love all the way to the end, everything that begins ends.
Yeah.
And I ended up naming it Fatal Optimist from the moment I started writing this record, weirdly. And I think it kind of always felt a little bit like a dare to myself, to kind of like, not turn away from optimism, just because it tends to also create songs like Heavy Metal and Good Liar and Lone Wolf and so yeah.
Well, you're a professional DJ, because the very next thing I was going to ask about was heavy metal. So good job.
Thank you.
Segue.
You. So intuitive.
I know. With heavy metal, I love what you had to say about it, because being in your presence for a long time now, I was like, this is 100% true, that you say like your heart is that way, that your spirit is this very, heavy metal punk rock kind of spirit. And I've always seen that. But what comes out is these tender ballads and things. And I wonder for you, was there a moment, well, I guess two things within that. Was there a moment you're like, man, I want to do something that is maybe bigger? And you've had songs like that, Obsessive Thoughts, Rocks, is there part of you that's like wanting to be this rock and roll, person, but you're like, I sing the way I sing. This is my voice. Yeah.
Yeah. I think definitely, usually when I'm writing, I think I tend to think that I'm like writing a Robin record, or like just something that's a little bit like more sonically like intense or hardcore. But this one, especially this record, I really tried to kind of like just let myself be what I very naturally am, which is just a little bit more sensy than all that, which was, the other reason that like the majority of the writing for the record was finished when I, came up with the idea of heavy metal. And I was talking to my brother on the phone, actually, who is like in a speed metal band called Sublation.
Yes.
And I was just like, man, I just wish that like I could just like go so hard. You know what I mean? I just wish that I could go as hard as I feel, because I'm feeling really hard. And then I wrote down heavy metal at some point, and yeah, I'm glad that one kind of like got under the door before, like the Indiana Jones, like the rock like came sliding down. Yeah.
Me too. I love it. It's a standout track. There's a few that I wanted to ask you about. And the other one you also mentioned right after heavy metal, Good Liar, was thinking about this particular line in there where you talk about essentially not wanting to let your guard down, or never letting your guard down, in public. And yet you get on stage and you sing these, terribly intimate and sometimes revealing songs. Is that you know, are the two wolves people talk about, are these the sort of competing aspects of yourself where you want to hold things back, you want to have a shield, but you're needing to express it in some way?
Sure. I mean, I think like it's somewhat out of self-preservation when you do hold, or when I do hold something back, and trying to even find like the right time and place and space, to let things out. Sometimes can feel a bit like precarious, and like I'm making a choice or a decision, and sometimes I can like carry myself in a way where like I'm not just like openly weeping all the time. I'm also just not like, I'm not like, I wouldn't say that I'm a very sad person. I definitely do come to music to like process a lot of, like bigger, heavier feelings that, I'm grateful to be able to kind of do that. But yeah, I think like, I try to like keep my shit together on stage to like a point. I do think that like vulnerability is like a special, like really sacred element, and like if you can kind of carry that around with you, that's the magic of presence to some extent. Yeah.
Magic. I love that too. The magic of presence. Is that your book? That's what's coming next.
Magic of presence. When I start wearing capes, that's going to be my book.
Please tell me when you enter your Stevie Nicks era. I am here for it. You end the record with Fatal Optimist, and it is the one song that does include the more rock and full band elements. And you've talked about how, you said earlier, you originally set out and were making this as a more collaborative project, but then you stripped it all back. Is Fatal Optimist kind of what the record might have sounded like had you gone in that other direction?
I think Fatal Optimist ended up sounding like that as a sort of like permission to let like whatever kind of comes next sound however I want it to sound. That song is also just so melodic and like so alive that it felt like I didn't want to like strangle it into like being as introspective as like the rest of the record is. It felt like a nice way to kind of like leave a cookie at the end of the record for everybody. Like, okay, we just went through, we really ran it back. And like, hopefully by kind of like sort of setting like a reminder for myself, even at the end of the record, to be like, right, but like optimism, right, guys? It felt like a fun way to do that.
Well, in one of the things I read in a bio, then it was sort of translated in an article, but it seemed like a little bit of a game of telephone where they were referring to these records as a trilogy, Lord of the Rings of Sadness.
So funny.
And did you think of it, or do you think of it this way now, sort of being able to sit back and go, oh, these are of a piece, this feels like something?
Yeah, it's so funny. I love the idea of like the completion, the final completion in the trilogy of breaking everything. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I thought the last record, Weird Faith was like, I thought that it was like a whole bunch of love songs on that record, and so funny, like, retrospectively to just be like, oh no, that's just like your anxious attachment and avoidant whatever, like speaking the whole entire time. And I mean, I would love to say that this is like the final install of like a 3-part trilogy in like sadness, heartbreak, and grief, but I like, I have no idea what's happening in my life or like what's coming next, and I'm not gonna like stop writing sad songs probably, but I do think the next record is gonna have to be something just ripping because we can't keep going like this, right?
You heard it here first. Rock band Maddie.
Rippin'.
Yeah, rippin'. I mean, you call it what you want, but rippin's right there for you.
Speedboat Blue.
Yeah. Speedboat Blue.
Speedboat Blue.
The band or the album?
That's a good question.
Okay,
wow,
TBD.
Speedboat Blue, that's pretty good. There's something metaphorical in there, I think.
Okay. I'm not asking for co-write. This is just encouragement.
It's good. I like
Executive
it.
production.
Thank
maybe.
you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maddie,
talk.
yes, Maddie, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for
again.
making another great record.
Thanks.
And we're going to get that t-shirt or sub or whatever you need for you. So
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.